Greetings, fellow Slayers. We're looking looking Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 4. Now continues on with The Initiative. Riley, Forrest, and Graham watch as Buffy makes a mess of the soda and yogurt machines in the cafeteria. Forrest and Graham comment on how attractive she is and how interested in her they are, but Riley's reluctant to make fun. Giles and Xander discover the commando guys are human and that their help will not be needed again. Buffy arrives, and while Giles tells her to patrol, she says she's going to party with Willow and hopefully cheer her up. Spike wakes up in a facility where various demons are held captive, being behind electrically charged barriers. A packet of blood drops from the ceiling in Spike's cell, but before he drinks it, a vampire in the next cell, Tom, warns him that doctors starve the vampires and then feed them drugged blood before doing experiments on them. Tom mentions that he was captured and his gang took on Buffy, making Spike come to the conclusion that the Slayer is behind his capture. In class, Willow talks about Oz, but Riley tells her that he's dropped out of college. After Willow tries to tell him that Oz will return, Professor Walsh informs her that he won't be welcome in her class, which upsets Willow and she quickly leaves. Buffy approaches the professor and tells her off, probably why she commented to Riley that she likes her. Forrest asks Parker about Buffy, and Parker vulgarly brags about having sex with her. Riley punches him. Riley then realizes he likes Buffy. Spike lies on the floor of his cell, pretending to have drunk the drugged blood. When the doctors come to get him, he attacks. He lets him out of his cell, but this is only to use him to aid his escape, which he does by pushing him into approaching commandos, resulting in Tom being quickly dusted. Riley visits Willow and asks her advice in wooing Buffy. Willow, still emotionally distressed, questions his motives but eventually relents. Let's see some of Buffy's likes and interests. After escaping from the initiative, Spike returns to Harmony's lair, telling her he's back for good, then immediately leaves to kill Buffy. At the party, Willow tries to help Riley flirt with Buffy with little success, but is upset when a Dingo's Ain't My Baby song starts playing and decides to leave. Xander discovers Harmony crying, burning some of Spike's things. The two get into an inept slap fight, and they mutually agree to stop. Harmony lets Xander know that Spike is back. Xander helps Riley's renewed attempt to chat Buffy up to inform Buffy that Spike has returned. Riley is also called away. He and Forrest break away from the party and, after passing through several electronic checkpoints, go down to a hidden elevator to the underground facility where Spike had been held. The operations head, Professor Walsh, informs him that Hostile 17, Spike, has escaped, and the guys suit up. Riley gives orders to 3 teams and he sends out Oliver Sunnydale to find Spike. Riley's team spots Buffy sitting on a bench. Riley says she won't be their bait and goes out to get rid of her. Each owner of the other's secret identity, Riley and Buffy try to send each other out of harm's way. Meanwhile, Spike has found Buffy's dorm through the school computer system. Inside, Willow is feeling miserable, and when the door knocks, she calls out to come in without thinking, only for Spike to swag her through the door. Willow tries to get away, but Spike throws her against the bed and attempts to bite her, only to be stopped by intense pain in his head. Willow hits him with a lamp and runs out just as Riley and friends cut the power and they work their way up to the dorm room. They capture Spike, but while they consider whether to take Willow or not, Spike breaks free and uses a fire extinguisher as a shield, filling the corridor with smoke. Buffy arrives and fights Riley and his friends while Spike manages to escape through a window. Buffy and Riley continue to trade blows, each unable to identify the other. Seeing that Spike has escaped, Riley orders them to retreat. Professor Walsh is not happy with what happened or with Riley's support in the event, but he confirms that Walsh's inhibitor chip works, as Spike cannot kill or even harm a human without feeling pain thanks to an implant they placed in his head. Riley catches up with Buffy and they talk. Buffy tells him he's a little peculiar, which she says he can live with. So anyway, let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. Tom, Spike's cell neighbor at the initiative, had been captured the freshman after running away from Buffy when she was slaying Sunday's gang. One of the demons that is locked inside an initiative cell and subsequently experimented on the same species of demon that Buffy killed at the start of the Wish. Spike receives an inhibitor chip in his head, which will continue to be a major story point for years to come. It is eventually removed in The Killer in Me. Spike asks a fellow prisoner who their captors are, guessing if it's the government, the Nazis, or a cosmetics manufacturer that are involved. In Why We Fight, it's revealed that Spike was captured by the Nazis during World War II and dealt with the Demon Research Initiative. Ironically, Spike declared at the time, "I'm going to experiment with the American government," which is exactly what happens to him. When talking to Forrest about Buffy, Riley dryly remarks that she doesn't have good taste in men given that she slept with Parker. Two of Buffy's other love interests say very similar statements about her love life, Spike in Goodbye Iowa and Angel in The Girl in Question. Spike remarks he's only 126. It's eventually established that he was born in 1853 and sired in 1880, therefore having mistaken his age by 20 years. Excuse me. Spike and Will discuss the love spell and her kidnapping from Lover's Walk. Years later, Spike and Will amusingly tell at a party the story of when he first had the chip implanted in his head and failed to attack her, as well as the awkward conversation that followed. Projected for a remote situation, Will really foreshadows how Riley eventually breaks out with Buffy and leaves town and into the woods. The song that plays at the party that Willow says has big associations. Riley's friends asked to change his fate, which Dingo Say My Baby played to the broads at Inca Mummy Girl, the first time Oz noticed Willow. Aww. So let's take a look at some production notes from this episode. The working title for this episode was Secret Agent Man, where the writers thought it'd be a giveaway to the revelation about Riley. Seth Green has been removed from the opening credits, with James Marster is promoted to the main cast and taking his place, a position he'll maintain for the remainder of the series. This is also the first time in the series that a cast change occurs mid-season. Several names in the student directory Spike examines are actually behind-the-scenes production staff, such as Assistant Chief Lighting Technician Eric Parker, Brian Knox's Assistant J.D. Peralta, Song Coordinator Jeff Pruitt, Hairstylist Lisa Rosenberg, Costume Supervisor Cindy Rosenthal, Set Designer Victoria Ruskin, Special Effects Technician Leo Solis, Lighting Console Operator Tim Speed, and co-producer David Solomon. The vast set for the initiative, revealed for the first time in this episode, was filmed at Skunk Works, a complex where stealth bombers are built. When described the set, writer Doug Petrie said he was told by Kim Contner, and Joss Whedon to go big. Use your imagination. Do it. Go there. This is a big-budget movie. Actress Mercedes McNabb says the hair-pulling, shin-kicking fight with Xander was quote, actually one of my favorite on-screen fights, end quote. Now she had a stuntable, she responded, "No, it was all me, but we were in knee pads and shin guards, which was kind of ridiculous seeing it was just a cheesy fight." Graham Miller was named after a college friend of Doug Petrie's. The original Graham Miller was Canadian, and while talking about Buffy with Riley, Graham references this by saying that maybe she's Canadian. Forrest and Graham were meant to be Shakespearean sidekicks, whose job is to tell the hero what his heart truly wants, quote, and so Shakespeare with ray guns and shit, end quote. Scott Becker is credited as Lost Freshman, although his scene was cut. And now let's look at some pop culture references. Xander comments on not being up to passing weapons drills from the mobile infantry, a reference to the film Starship Troopers. Buffy refers to the commandos as a late-night stormtrooper pal, referring to the troops from the Star Wars franchise. Hardy mentions not listening to the Sex Pistols when talking about Spike's belongings. Riley mentions not asking Buffy how about them Denver Broncos, referring to the American football team. And now finally, let's take a look at a goof. When Spike throws Willow down on the bed in her dorm, and the camera shows Willow's point of view, the top of the set and the set lights become visible. So overall, I think this is a pretty interesting episode, and yeah, the fact that Spike is now a main character now, that's kind of interesting, if I do say so myself, so yeah. So overall, I give the initiative 4 vampire steaks out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in a bit so we till the next episode, Pangs. So, until then, here endeth the lesson.